Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. 1. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button, also subscribe to the channel. Today is Monday, which means Boxingego's Monday Mail Day MMD. We're off the heels of Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn. It was an upset. Most people didn't know who Jeff Horn is. Even in the broadcast leading up, I seen like respected, I think it was Bleacher Report, they put Joe Horn. They didn't even know his name. So crazy stuff. And I put a thumb up next to the questions I'll answer. I'm going to try to breeze through these and answer questions. First question is from Berto is a Legend. What are your thoughts on a possible fight between AMIR Khan and KELL Brook? Glass chin versus glass eye. Wow. And who would you favor to win that fight? I would favor KELL Brook, just because even in his knockout losses, I don't think he was knocked out as bad as AMIR Khan has been. Like, I mean, obviously the Canelo knockout was pretty intense. Like AMIR Khan was, his eyes were open and he was like asleep. Bradis Prescott was real bad, but KELL Brook, he's just, to me, bigger. Khan has a cool size frame at welterweight, but I think KELL Brook he's bigger and more durable. So if his eye heals up, I think he has the power advantage. And both of them are coming off injuries and surgeries, and they will be decent sized layoffs. AMIR Khan ain't fought since May of 2016 when he got knocked out by Canelo, and he's just been rehabbing. So I don't know what kind of shape he's in. I don't know what kind of weight he's gained. So it could be a good fight. For me, I'm a little bit past this. I think the guys had the opportunity to fight Brook versus Khan Brook, and they kind of missed the mark. Instead of it becoming like one of the great fights to be had in British boxing, especially in recent memory, like Joshua Klitschko, they kind of waited for it to become stale. Like even the Joshua Klitschko, even though Klitschko was coming off a long layoff and a loss, his loss wasn't good, but he didn't get knocked out or knocked down. But when guys get knocked out, both of them, KELL Brook got knocked out 2 times back to back, and AMIR Khan got knocked out brutally. So it's just kind of lessened the thrill of the whole thing. Now I think it could do solid numbers. I would watch it, but to me it's not as impactful for the division, because at the time, if they would have fought when they were supposed to, 2 years ago, last year, something like that, before the Golovkin fight for KELL Brook and before the AMIR Khan fight versus Canelo, then that would have helped shape the welterweight division and it would have been worth the title. Now KELL Brook got his title taken by Errol Spence Jr., so it'll be a beltless fight. You guys get what I'm saying? So that's just my honest opinion. Next question is Boxing Genius 1. With title organizations giving titles out like they're candy and sanctioning terrible fights, do titles mean anything in boxing anymore? Do titles collect dust like Floyd Mayweather once said? Now, I think titles still mean something. I mean, respected titles. It does get excessive with like interim and silver and international, intercontinental, Shawn Michaels, Sweet Chin Music titles and all that extra titles. Titles still mean something, especially like the WBC and certain belt. Everyone likes the green belt, so it means something. But you pretty much know who's who in each division. You know who's the man, even if there's multiple titles floating around from that same organization. But in certain situations, there are situations where someone is deemed like a paper champ, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but like Liam Smith, we all knew him fighting Canelo wasn't the greatest fight. Canelo had way more experience. And out of all the guys Canelo could have fought at 54, he was pretty much the weakest champ or former champion that was still active. Edison Lilada, way more decorated and proven. Demetrius Andrade, you know what I mean? Tons of guys. Jamal Charlo, all those guys when they were at 54 would have made more sense than Liam Smith. So that's just part of the business. Next question, Saul Canelo Alvarez. Do you think Pacquiao and Mayweather will have a rematch? I don't know if you wrote this before the Jeff Horn fight, but no. Now, after seeing him lose to Jeff Horn, who's going to want to watch a Mayweather fight? And even though Jeff Horn fights totally different than Mayweather, it's still lost to a John Doe kind of fighter. Who is pound for pound number 1, Ward or the winner of Canelo versus Triple G? Ward. Body of work. I mean, like, you look at it, Canelo versus Golovkin is a great fight, and I don't have any problem with somebody ranking the winner of that fight as pound for pound. But Canelo already lost to Floyd Mayweather, like, dominantly. Like, even if you look at Ward Kovalev in either fight, especially the second one, obviously he got stopped. But in the first fight, Kovalev didn't dominate Ward like Mayweather dominated Canelo. You know what I mean? Plus, Canelo has that fight that he never rematched with Edeslani Lara, where I thought Lara won by a round or two. You know what I mean? And then Golovkin, his best names on his resume at age 35 are his last 2 opponents, KELL Brook and Daniel Jacobs. Now, if he beats Canelo, then that'll be the best name on his resume. And if Canelo beats Golovkin, I think that'll be the best win on his resume. Not the best name, because Floyd Mayweather's the best name. But if Canelo can beat Golovkin, it'll be the best win. So, again, Canelo, Triple G, they definitely deserve pound-for-pound recognition at that point. But based on the totality of Ward's career, what he's done, I don't see him I can't see him falling behind the Canelo Golovkin winner. And if you can, intelligently debate that. Next question, at age 40, do you think Floyd can hang in there with the top young welterweights? Yes. Danny Garcia's style would be, that style Floyd has would be all wrong for Danny Garcia. Sean Porter, he's come forward, but I think Floyd would be able to capitalize and make the mistakes. He's not going to just let Sean Porter bull rush him. He's going to matador Sean Porter. I think he would beat Keith Thurman. He's friends with Errol Spence, so they wouldn't fight. He would beat Pacquiao. I mean, Jeff Horn. Do we even have to even talk about that? So, yeah. I mean, the only thing, like I said in my live stream, is if Floyd aged overnight and taking the 2 years off, he looked like a totally different fighter. But if it's the same Floyd that we've been seeing, like even in the last couple of years, I see him beating those guys. Unless, like I said, Father Time caught up and he just looked crazy. Then your final question, why do you think people pushing Lomachenko versus Rigo and not Lomachenko versus Gervonta Davis? Gervonta Davis is most likely fighting Salido. Lomachenko, at one point, just until the other day, needed an August opponent, and RIGONDEAUX was saying, I'll come to you. So, I mean, realistically, you got to look at it. Floyd Mayweather and team, or Mayweather Promotions, who manages Tank Davis, they've been very transparent. They said, he's over there with Bob Arum. We got our own fight plans to build up Gervonta Tank Davis. He's 22, and then we have our goals for what we're going to do with him. So, I mean, that's what it is. They basically said that he's over there on the top rank side. We don't know if the business will make sense or whatever, and we're going to build up Gervonta Tank Davis. So he's already, what is there to talk about with Lomachenko and Tank Davis when Mayweather Promotions told you that's not in their immediate sights? You know what I mean? I'd rather them say that than say something crazy like, oh, Loma's a bum or something like that. Tank Davis, I'd seen an interview and he said Lomachenko's a good fighter. And he didn't say nothing bad about Lomachenko. It was right around the Jason Sosa week. So why would people be talking about Lomachenko Tank Davis when you already know the situation with that? You already know that Mayweather Promotions, they said they have a new champion and they're going to build him up and fight his mandatories and fight the right fights and fights that they can easily make on their side, and then maybe worry about that later down the road. Meanwhile, RIGONDEAUX is free, and these are two of the best amateurs to come out of the amateur circuit, and RIGONDEAUX finally says, you know what, I'll come up to all the way to 130. No catch weight of 128, no 26. I'll come up to you. So, of course, people are going to be talking about that because they're two of the best amateurs. And, like, honestly, Tank Davis, I think his style-wise, I'm not saying he beats Lomachenko, but his style has the chance to do the best against Lomachenko, because the style that has proven to beat Lomachenko is Salido. So you have to have power and you have to put pressure on him. And Tank Davis can put on intelligent pressure. Again, I'm not saying he beats Lomachenko, but I mean, that's what it is. But ultimately, he's developing. He's a young fighter, and he has to get the right type of fights. And wouldn't you want to see the Tank Davis versus Lomachenko fight when it makes the most sense, the most sense to have it happen? Like, if they want to scrap tomorrow, then cool. If it makes business sense and they get it cracking, it's all good. But they've already let you know what it is. So of course people are going to be talking about the RIGONDEAUX situation, because there's no real reason why that. RIGONDEAUX says, I want you, and Lomachenko says, oh, I'll fight you. But then it didn't happen. Next question, Brandon Smith. Should Pacquiao find another opponent or rematch Jeff Horn? I think the writing's on the wall. That's why it seemed kind of fishy, like it almost seemed like it was set up. And I think they want to push for the rematch. I think that was the goal with this whole thing. If it was tough, because there wasn't even like a split decision. It was a unanimous decision for Jeff Horn. So I think the goal is for a rematch. So, and I mean, what other opponent? Pacquiao already went through the Vargas. He already fought Bradley 3 times. I mean, there is no other opponent. There are other opponents, but Pacquiao has had ample opportunity to fight those, and he's not. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, KELL Brook. I never even heard them pursue those. They talk about, oh, we'll fight Mikey Garcia, 35-pounder. Oh, Danny Garcia, a guy who just lost. You know what I mean? Oh, Adrian Broner, a guy who struggled every time he's had tougher fights once he went over the 144 mark, or 144 pounds. So it's clear that Pacquiao doesn't want to fight the top welterweights. So, yeah, it's probably going to be a Jeff Horn rematch. Next question, Brian Olia. Ego is obvious, age is getting the best of Manny, and it's just about that time for him to hang him up. Besides the robbery and ageful performance Pacquiao put out, do you think it would be wise for him to retire? Now, that's not really my lane. I don't really, unless it's, I don't know. I guess if it's a fighter I really like Roy Jones, where I just grew up like idolizing Roy Jones, I'm like, hey man, I want to see Roy Jones retire. But I mean, based on that performance from Pacquiao, it's not really my job to say he needs to retire after that. Obviously, it wasn't his strongest performance. Obviously, it shouldn't have been as tough. Most people can agree that you're not really supposed to give a person life like that. When he was a John Doe, nobody really knew who he was, and now he has a name. Now his following is growing. Now he has your belt. You know what I mean? So I can't say he has to retire off of that. And if I was Pacquiao, I wouldn't want to retire off that, especially if you think you can beat him or you beat him. So I would at least try to rematch him and then retire. But I mean, it's not really my place to say who should retire and what. I mean, at times I do, like I said, with Roy Jones, if I think of persons like just really super past it. But Pacquiao can give good fights. You know what I mean? He didn't get knocked out in this fight or nothing crazy. He didn't even get knocked down. So, I mean, he still has somewhat of a threat because he is a good fighter. Next question, British boxing fan. Because Parker's fighting Fury and Joshua will probably rematch Klitschko, who should Wilder fight next? I'd pick White, but I think Wilder don't want that work. I don't know. I don't see why he would fight Bermane Stiverne, but be avoiding Dillian White. But that's just me. Bermane Stiverne, he had just destroyed Chris Arreola. He was a champion. He's probably around Dillian White's size. He hits hard, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just me. I don't think the White thing, like I said, the White thing, people keep making this into a big issue. I don't know if you're from the UK. It says British boxing fan, so I'm assuming. But I like Dillian White. I still feel the same way. I don't think Wilder would get credit if he beats a guy who arguably lost to Derek Chisora and got knocked out when he fought Joshua. And that was like 2 years ago or whenever he got knocked out by AJ. People already say bum squad and all this, so are they really going to give him credit for that? You know what I mean? I don't see it. Plus, people keep talking about the money, but you got to look beyond the money. Is what are the terms? The terms are White probably would have home court advantage, and Deontay Wilder would have to come to the UK. You know what I mean? So I don't know and he was willing to fight Alexander Povetkin, who I think is probably a bigger puncher than Dillian White, and he was going to fight him in Russia. So if we're talking about like home court advantage and stuff, Russia, they ain't playing over there. You know what I mean? So if he was willing to fight him, and the only reason that fight broke up was because of the failed drug test with the meldonium, then I really don't see why he would not want to fight Dillian White in the UK. You know what I mean? He was just over in the UK for Joshua Klitschko. So I don't think I personally don't think he's ducking that fight. It probably, the actual contract probably didn't make sense. You know what I mean? I'm the champion and I got to fight in his backyard or whatever. I don't know because I don't have all the details. It's just my speculation. Next question, Zay Road. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. LOL. Anyways, there's been a lot of debate on whether Crawford should be ranked higher than Ward. I never heard that debate. I don't know, but that's just me. If he becomes undisputed. I personally disagree and think that there's still at least one more high-tier opponent, Thurman Spence at 147, or the winner, Verona Garcia, so he can at least rival Andre's spot. What would Bud need to do, in your opinion, to get that #1 spot while Ward is still active? That's a good question. He just has to fight the right fights. Julius Ndongo, I think, is a good fight. It's a tough fight. Felix Diaz, but I think he has to get one of those names that is a more popular threat too. You know what I'm saying? Because people look at that, because like for Julius Ndongo, for me and real boxing fans, they'll be like, hey, if Crawford easily dispatches of him, they'll be like, man, this dude is sweet. He's nice in there, because that was Julius Ndongo. But to the people, a lot of people who make pound for pound lists, they're not going to look at Julius Ndongo. I'm already seeing it in the comment section. Fans and stuff are saying, oh, who is this? Crawford, he's fighting another bum, and crazy stuff like that. So, like I said, real boxing fans know Julius Ndongo should be a good challenge. And if Crawford passes with flying colors, it's based on his skill. But to rival Andre Ward, I think, like you said, he just needs another marquee name, somebody who everyone's watched their career, like a Danny Garcia. Like, what if he stopped Danny Garcia or fought and beat a top guy at 147 after that? Then I think that would be it, because Ward, to his credit, he moved up, took Kovalev's #1 mandatory, Sullivan Barrera, and then on top of that, he beat Kovalev twice and then stopped him the second time. So to displace him, that's going to take a lot. And don't get me wrong, Crawford's done beastly things and he can continue. So he just needs to really keep doing what he's doing. He himself said it. Crawford says Andre Ward's pound for pound #1. That's my dude. And I think he came out to his last fight and he says I'm #2. So, I mean, he's okay with being #2. But to get there while Ward is still active, he just has to fight a marquee name like that. That's going to get him the recognition, like someone who's a skilled threat challenge, and probably move up at 47 to do that after becoming undisputed. Next question, Fresh BX. Who has the best job in boxing currently, in your opinion? Better jab, Triple G or Canelo? I know you've been covering boxing for a while now. In what year did it become profitable enough for you to start doing it full time? Or did you start out full time? Where did you get the name Ego from? Or was it a given a name? Why do Cuban fighters or certain fighters in general stay in the Olympics so long? RIGONDEAUX and Lomachenko. Wow, good questions. I'm not really much of a list maker where I can just isolate it, because some people have a great jab, but then they don't use it consistently. So I'm just going to name out some people who have good jabs to me. I think Deontay Wilder has an underrated jab. If you go back or watch his fights, like maybe even the Chris Arreola fight, he has a good jab. It's underrated because he's already a strong dude. So it's very snappy and he's athletic. So he has a good jab, but he doesn't always use it consistently. A lot of the Eastern European fighters, I want to say Kovalev has an excellent jab. Gennady Golovkin of Kazakhstan has a very good jab, evident in his fights with Kovalev's fights with Ward, Triple G's fights with Daniel Jacobs and David Lemieux. They couldn't stay away from the jab. Even though I thought Jacobs beat him, that jab remained a problem. The Charlo brothers have excellent jabs per division. Floyd Mayweather, great jab throughout the years. RIGONDEAUX. Those are the guys that really come to mind as far as having a good jab. Klitschko has a good jab. Joshua, they were having a jab contest. So Joshua, I want to say Anthony Joshua. Those are the people that come to mind. Who has a better jab, Triple G or Canelo? Canelo also has a good jab, but he doesn't use it consistently. So I'm going to say Triple G because I've seen him put that stick out there, pause, and then use it consistently. So I want to say he has a better jab. Plus, I think he's probably per capita stronger, and he has longer arms, it looks like. So his jab has more reach to it. So it's harder to deal with. Canelo has short, stubby, compact arms. So I think Triple G's jab is going to be harder to deal with because it can reach further out. But Canelo has a good jab. He just doesn't use it as consistently. So the answer to your question is Golovkin. Covering boxing for a while, when did it become profitable? I didn't start off full time. I don't know. I don't remember the exact year, but I had been doing it for, I don't know. I really don't know, because I didn't, it kind of happened. I don't remember the actual, but I know I had been doing it like a year and a half at least, probably 2 years before it started becoming profitable, and then I stopped working a regular job. So it took some time. Like, I definitely had to pave the way. There was countless nights, because I had a job. I was working a regular job, and I was coming home doing boxing videos. Tired as fuck. You know, you have to, and I was getting paid good money too. Like, you know what I mean, at my job. I was just at a little job at Best Buy, and I kept getting promoted. I was working full time. I had little medical benefits and stuff. So I really didn't even need to do the boxing stuff, because I was pretty set. But this was the passion, and the goal wasn't to stay at Best Buy. That discount is sweet though, but the goal wasn't to just stay there. I had other plans. So I want to say maybe a year and a half, 2 years, till I really started. When you first start, you don't really see no money, to be honest. When you first start, you have to earn your stripes. I don't know how it is now, because I'm not coming in the game now, but maybe it's different, because just from looking at channels, sometimes it looks like some channels that just started, they grew faster. So, you know what I mean? Certain people paved the way. Like, you have to understand certain people. There were certain people like myself and Dante that kind of paved the way and made it like a reality. And I'm not trying to sound cocky, but kind of inspired others to do this. Other people we inspired to, like, they seen that, hey, I could cover boxing. I can actually do something with this. You know what I mean? And made it a reality. Like, oh, we can go to, from people see my journey. You know what I mean? They see me from doing videos in my room to live streaming at the actual fight and getting credentialed and stuff. So I don't remember the exact year per se, but I'll roughly say a year and a half, 2 years. But I was consistent in that time, and I was doing it while I was working a job. Where did you get the name Ego from? I used to do music, and that was my name. It's kind of a combination of my first name and my last name. And then the final question, why do Cuban fighters or certain fighters stay in the Olympics so long? Personal goal, I want to say. It's their personal goal. Lomachenko and Rigo, they knew they were skilled, that they can wait 4 years and enter and most likely get through to the next Olympics. So why not? Clarissa Shields, people like that. Why not? There's no rush to turn pro. You probably have people helping you out, like, you know what I mean? Because you're such a talent. So you probably have people, I don't know how it works exactly, but you probably have people endorsing you and helping you get by until you can make it to the pros and get paid. So what's the rush? So that's probably why they stay, for the accomplishment and to try it, you know what I mean? To see if they can get 2 gold medals. That's the only thing I can think of. Next question, ZP Goldman. Hey, Ego, thanks for all the great content. No problem. 2 questions. Who do you think Rigo should focus on, since he can't seem to get the fight with Loma despite the public asking for it? Also, is the controversy caused by Pacquiao-Horn fight good for boxing? I haven't seen so many people interested in the fight for a while. Does boxing need these controversial moments like Arguello versus Pryor to draw interest from the general public and not the diehard boxing fans? I don't know. Rigondeaux, I really don't know who he should fight. I think he should keep putting the pressure to Lomachenko and pressure bust pipe, see what happens with that. But I mean, he's getting older, and that's what I think a lot of guys want. But he's already been after Carl Frampton, Scott Quigg, Abner Mates, Leo Santa Cruz, and guys leave the division. You know what I mean? He said he'll meet Rigondeaux, would meet Lomachenko at 30. no go. So I don't know. I really don't know what else he can do. It's just a shame that he's had to do all this and still can't nab one of these big fights, knowing he's a skilled guy. Donaire didn't look like he wanted a rematch, so I don't know. Maybe try to go with Magdaleno. That's the only person I've really seen call him out that I can remember and actually sound like they really meant it. Pacquiao Horn is good for boxing because you got Kobe Bryant, former All-Star Lakers player, Dream Team player, represented the USA. Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay, so Super Bowl winner. You had just a ton of people. I seen Freddie Prinze Jr., a ton of people talking about it. So whether they're talking good or bad, they're still talking about it, and it's making people go back. ESPN got great ratings from what I heard. They got great ratings for it on their network. It was on free TV. Jeff Horn, I'm sure, gained a bunch of new fans. Now he has the belt. And actually, the good thing I will say about Jeff Horn is the great thing is he actually sounds down to maybe fight. I don't, whether you can call him foolish or say he has no chance versus Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, at least there's maybe a chance that he fights those guys. Unlike Pacquiao. Pacquiao clearly didn't seem like he wanted to fight Crawford or Spence or Keith Thurman. At least this guy seems basically down. He called out Floyd, and post-fight press conference he said Keith Thurman and Errol Spence is on his hit list. So I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But whether you think he has a shot or not, I at least respect him calling him out. You know what I mean? I never heard Pacquiao acted like he didn't exist. Like Errol Spence and Thurman don't really even exist. Same thing with Freddie Rhodes. They all, oh, I want to fight Mikey Garcia. Like, what? You want to fight a 35-pounder? No one's talking about that. So I think it's good for boxing because it keeps people talking. Next question, no more for you. What up, Ego? So I'll spare you the Pacquiao robbery question. I assume many people will bring that up. So I'll just ask you this. Do you think Floyd Mayweather can score a devastating KO on a much younger McGregor? If I'm not mistaken, George Foreman was 45 years old when he knocked out Michael Moore, who was way younger guy, about 26 years of age. Would love your take on this. Thanks. Now, I don't think Foreman Moore is a good example because George Foreman got cracks. And they say power is the last thing to leave you. And he's in the heavyweight division. So Foreman had punching power probably till his last fight where he fought Shannon Briggs. Some of y'all don't know boxing, so you don't know that Shannon the Cannon Briggs, let's go champ, was Foreman's last fight. But even in the Tommy Morrison, all these fights, Foreman's power was probably still there. He was just maybe sluggish or slow, or maybe wasn't able to beat some of those guys. But even Evander Holyfield said Foreman pretty much hit him the hardest. And he went back to his corner and asked him if he had any teeth. He thought Foreman knocked his teeth out. And obviously these fighters wear mouthpieces, so that's pretty crazy to think all your teeth got knocked out. He clearly has cracks. So that's not a good example for Floyd because Floyd has brittle hands and he's a guy who moved up 5 divisions. So he's not naturally the biggest welterweight. We're talking about Conor McGregor, who fought at 170 and looks, frame-wise, it looks bigger than Floyd. You know what I'm saying? So devastating KO, I don't know about that because I don't know. Conor's just pretty big. Like I said, he's a guy that fought at 170. TKO, I could see a TKO if anything, but I don't know about this devastating KO. I don't know. We'll have to see because that's a shot in the dark. I don't know because I don't know what level of boxing Conor has. Like some of his tapes, it doesn't look too great. Like just him hitting the heavy bag and him sparring. What I have seen, he hasn't really looked great. So maybe he can. It just depends because the rounds are longer. But if as a betting man, I would probably say a TKO or a decision would be more likely than a devastating like when Marquez knocked out Pacquiao. I don't know if it'll be nothing like that because again, some people may be putting that bug out there like, oh, Floyd has to knock him out devastatingly or it's a bust. Not really. He can just, if he Arturo Gotti's him, that would be very sufficient. Especially considering Pacquiao, another fighter who's younger than Floyd, just lost to a complete no-name guy in Jeff Horn. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think Floyd has to knock him out, but he doesn't want to be in there and be like Pacquiao was with Jeff Horn. Be in the fight where it's like, wow, Conor's giving him some real work and I gave Connor's round 5 through 8. You know what I mean? That would be weird if Conor is winning consecutive rounds over Floyd, and it's like a super dog fight. And that's just my opinion. Next question, Courtney Douglas. What advice would you give Robert Easter Jr. after a close win? In my opinion, I think once his competition gets stiffer paws, the inside fighting he likes so much won't work so much. He shows no dedication to working behind the jab, nor using his tall frame and long reach to his advantage. Your comment. I actually didn't see the Denis Shafikov fight. I still haven't watched it. I have it on DVR. That's about it. But I called this a while ago. If you listen to my old Robert Easter Jr. videos, I like his mentality, his temperament. I like his style is entertaining. But I told you guys, he reminds me of Paul Williams, a guy who's freakishly tall for the division, yet he doesn't fight tall. And there's good and bad with that. There's good when you're fighting like when Paul Williams fought Antonio Margarito. He beat him. Volume, crazy volume, likes that inside work, and then he kind of like more athletic, and he beat Margarito to the punch. But the bad is if you get in there with them Shafikovs and certain guys who have some power and technique, or like let's say Mikey Garcia comes back to 35, those are going to be difficult fights for Easter, or not even just difficult, but fights he has to be cautious for, because Mikey has real life cracks. You know what I mean? And that inside fighting game, you don't want to get caught with something short, because if you have longer arms and you're in too close, you're not going to have the proper trajectory to get off. You're not going to have the full extension on your shots because you're in too close, right? That's why you look at great tall fighters who fought tall, like the Klitschko's, Lennox Lewis. They use their height to perfection because they work behind the jab, like you're saying, and they keep you on the outside. They keep you on the end of the stick. So it makes it harder, like come in close. I dare you, bop. You know what I mean? You're always worried about the 1-2. And it's like every time you try to come in, you're getting popped. Look at Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson. I mean, granted, it was like kind of a washed Mike Tyson. He didn't have the same custom auto dedication and stuff like that. But Tyson grew frustrated and tired and hurt from getting hit, trying to come in on the inside. He was no longer as crazy athletic and had that crazy bounce and head movement and stuff like that. And he was even more sluggish, and Lennox Lewis made him pay when he tried to come in. So that's the only advice for Robert Easter, is if you have that in your arsenal, start bringing it out. So your Richard Comey fights and Denis Shafikov, so there's no controversy at all. Just win. You got to win. You know what I mean? Even though he won those fights, some people dispute both of them. So just you're taller than most. Every time I see Easter in the weigh-in photos, like him and Cruz, him and Shafikov, he's staring down at them. Like it looks like he's noticeably taller than them. So why not use your God-given like attributes? Like you're clearly taller than all these dudes. You're taller than Adrian Broner, who's fighting at 47 or has fought at 47. You know what I mean? So use that to your advantage. That's my only advice. Next question, Antonio Montero. What do you think about the results of Pacquiao versus Horn? Now, I did a long live stream, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that question. But I thought Pacquiao won. I don't think Pacquiao looked great. I think Pacquiao is to blame if people think he lost. Reason being, you shouldn't have been fighting him to begin with. So this wouldn't have never happened if you and your team didn't agree to the fight. And again, if Pacquiao would have ended up losing to anybody else who was like a Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Kell Brook, losing those guys, that wouldn't have been. People are just like, oh, they're younger, stronger, bigger than him. Cool. But you lost to a guy who didn't have their pedigree and was lesser known than them. So the fight shouldn't have happened to begin with, even though it turned out to be a good fight. Just because something's a good fight doesn't mean it should have happened. You know what I mean? Like some things work out by mistake. Like I remember one time I left to the airport and I left a little bit too late, and it all worked out to me because my flight got delayed by like 40 minutes. So it worked out perfect. So I actually got to the airport at the perfect time. But truth be told, I should have left for the airport a lot sooner, because had my flight not got delayed, then I would have missed my flight. You get what I'm saying? So it just happens. Sometimes things will work out. Like it just so happens Pacquiao versus Horn was a good fight. That doesn't mean it was the right fight to initially be made. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. But beyond that, in the fight, what Pacquiao did wrong was, you're the elite guy. This is the John Doe fighter you're fighting, and he doesn't fight smart. He walks himself back to the ropes. You're no longer 28 or 26. You're no longer in your 20s. You're pushing 40. Why are you still doing that? Why are you walking yourself to the ropes and giving him pretty much his best shot to look good? He's slower than you, but he's also bigger than you. And he's also looks like he's decently strong. You know what I mean? And he's rough and physical. So why are you walking yourself back to the ropes? It'd be one thing if you're fighting like Floyd off the rope, crazy counters and stuff. But Pacquiao, he almost did what Clottey was doing to him when he fought Clottey. When Clottey was against the ropes, he just shelled up, took 3 or 4 punches that Pacquiao was throwing, and then maybe tried to throw one, if that. That's what Pacquiao was doing in spots where he's letting Jeff Horn was almost beating Pacquiao with Pacquiao's type of style, but it just didn't look the same because he's not as fast as Pacquiao. But Jeff Horn was backing him to the ropes and trying to bully him and throw multiple punches. He's just not jumping around as much with the angles, and he doesn't look the same doing it as Pacquiao. But bad game plan from Pacquiao. You're letting the younger, strong, big guy give the impression that he's bullying you on the ropes, and you're not really having it effective. You're just covering up and letting him get off all those shots, and some of them are connecting. Like, even Pacquiao just doesn't have a tight defense. Round 6, I believe it was, Jeff Horn was doing that bulldog stuff, and he launched a nasty uppercut, which Pacquiao's always been susceptible with the uppercuts. Watch the Mayweather fight, I think is round 11 off the top of my head, and Mayweather chin checked Pacquiao with the stupid uppercut, perfectly timed. And it looked like if Pacquiao didn't have a mouthpiece, his teeth would click, like chatter. Like, you ever had your teeth click? And then Jeff Horn hit him with a nasty uppercut in round 6. So Pacquiao just doesn't have the defense for all that. So why Pacquiao should have been light on his feet, moving around, doing all the angles that people know him for or say he has, those kind of things. But I blame Pacquiao for a lot of it. Bad game plan. I don't know what Freddie Roach was, because I don't remember they had commercials and stuff. I don't really remember hearing what the corner was saying. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. Pacquiao could have made it a much smoother night. Next question, Jim Hustle. Ego, how would you sum up the first 6 months of this great year of boxing? You summed it up. Great year of boxing. I'm enjoying it. We've had a little bit of controversy, you know what I mean? But it doesn't overshadow the great fights that we have. So this is one of the best years, the best first halves. I hope they close it this strong, because then that'll make it a complete year. If it gets just dry after September, after Canelo Golovkin, then that sucks. But I just want them to keep on this pace. There's a lot of great fights that can be made beyond this. Next question, Santos Aranda. Is Max Kellerman being delusional that Manny will KO Mayweather in a rematch, or is Lampley ruining Max? Now, I mean, I'm not even going to blame it on Lampley, because you're a grown-ass man at this time, so no one put a battery in your back on ESPN. Lampley's not even there, and you're still saying stuff. It's not even on HBO, and he's still saying the same stuff. So, that's just what it is. So, you can't. Max Kellerman's responsible for what he does. Yeah, he's being delusional. I mean, but I don't know if you wrote this before the outcome of the fight, but Pacquiao couldn't get past Jeff Horn convincingly enough for the 3 judges, and there's a lot of people that think he won. So why would he knock out Mayweather when he had Jeff Horn in horrible shape and completely let him off the hook in round 9, and then he actually didn't do bad in round 10. I gotta watch it. I don't remember off the top of my head who I gave round 10 to, but I don't remember him, considering how badly he was hurt and rocked in round 9. I don't remember it being a terrible round for Jeff Horn the very next round. So if Pacquiao, again, has a guy with 15 fights, very limited pro level experience, and he can't finish him, how's he going to finish a guy who's never going to even put himself in some of the positions like Jeff Horn because he has a better defense. It just doesn't make sense. So Max Kellerman, I told you guys that truth always comes out. People would say all these radical things, and Kovalev's going to knock Ward out, and Mayweather will KO. But in some shape or form, or Pacquiao will KO Mayweather, some shape or form, it always comes out. It always does. You know what I mean? Just different things happen and indications of what they said, if it was even close to the truth. Or in the case of like Ward Kovalev, we've seen that Kovalev didn't knock out Ward. So it just makes that person lose credibility when they're constantly wrong. Next question comes from Ivan Chuberikus. Hi, Ego. Shout out from Ukraine. I speak Russian, and after the fight, I was curious to read what Russian experts say about the fight. And majority of what I read pretty much said the same stuff as you did. This is in case some lunatics still say you're biased. Aside from many points that you pretty much covered in your breakdown, Russian experts mention lack of respect from Kovalev towards its coach. So do you think it's all on Kovalev and his ego, or just in general hard to build a good relationships if boxers and coach speak different language and have different cultures? No, I think that's a user beware. That's the individual to me. I don't think it's inherent that if you come from the Ukraine or Russia and you have an American coach that I mean, obviously there's language barriers, but there's plenty of situations like that where Freddie Roach, even when Pacquiao first came, Pacquiao didn't speak great English, so I'm pretty sure he had to have translators and people help relay the instructions. And I've seen that. I've seen plenty of coaches who, like, their fighter is Spanish or Spanish speaking and they don't speak any Spanish. So it's definitely doable, but it's based on the actual fighter and their personality. And from what I heard, Kovalev kind of has a dickish personality, you know what I mean? So maybe he doesn't respect John David Jackson like another coach. Like, because I never heard this with anyone. Curtis Stevens is trained by John David Jackson. I believe Bernard Hopkins was trained with John David Jackson at the end of his career. And I don't remember any of them having any kind of like dissonance or like disdain, or they weren't listening to his corner advice. You know what I mean? So I think it really just depends on the user. Ethnicity, national origin, those things don't matter. It just really depends on the actual fighter and how they embrace it. If you don't want to learn or not willing to learn, or you don't fully respect your coach, then I'm sure you're going to act accordingly. I meant to click this one. Yo, Ego, love the channel. Keep putting in that easy work. Boxing is one of the few sports that doesn't have a proper scoring system. Judging is pretty much opinion based, what style the judge favors, and this sickens me how decisions go the wrong way in the sport. PACQUIAOHORN was a classic case of this. What do you think can be done to standardize the judging criteria so that things like crazy wide scores, obvious corruption, and favoritism can be minimized in the sport? I was thinking maybe more judges, maybe have 5 and throw out 2. Just my thoughts, because the current system just isn't working. What are your thoughts? Now, the one thing I disagree with, you said boxing doesn't have proper scoring because it's opinion based. What you're saying is true and false. It's true in the sense of that's how a lot of people score fights, based on what they like. But there is an actual judging criteria of different ring generalship and different things that you're supposed to be looking for. But people with their built-in biases or whatever, they just revert back to what's more engaging to them. Like HBO, perfect. They're the prime examples. They're main culprits where they look at a fight, and if I listen to Harold Letterman and Jim Lampley, a lot of times it doesn't give me a good view of the fight because they don't really show you the contrast. If you take a step back, then you're losing the fight, unless you're maybe Mayweather, but he doesn't fight on the network anymore, so I don't know. But how they've been acting recently with their commentary, that's just it. If you're the guy fighting off the back foot, then you're losing the fight in their eyes because they want to come forward. I'm going for it. And that's stupid. That's a stupid way to view boxing, because I've seen a lot of guys who will come forward or give the appearance of coming forward and like they're really doing something, but they're not really doing shit because the other person's defense is too tight. They're slipping, they're blocking shots. So it looks cool. It looks like I always use this example. When Cotto had Mayweather on the ropes, a lot of those in the late rounds, it looks like Cotto's really going for it and rallying, but he's not really effective. He's not really doing nothing. Floyd's defense, he's rolling with a lot of the punches and taking steam off of them. Otherwise, you would see Floyd getting beat up and bullied on the ropes. And it looks like it to the untrained eye, but he's really not. So to answer your question, I can think of a couple of things they could do. I've already said this on the past Monday Mail Day. A lot of people ask similar questions to this. Put the judges on the hot seat. Make sure, like, make them get paid like an actor's agent. You know what I mean? The actor's agent gets paid on them hiring roles. So if they should vote or something, you know what I mean? Do some kind of commission-based system where if you turn in some bullshit scorecard that majority of the whole world and the public has a problem with, then you don't get paid properly. You know what I mean? You get paid the bare minimum. Give them $100 or something. I don't know how much judges make, but I'm sure it's probably a couple thousand at least. You know what I mean? So they need to have some kind of system like that. That's how you always hurt people. Hit them where it hurts. Like YouTube recently, they had an issue with a lot of the advertisers. They had a boycott. They pulled out their money because their ads were appearing on, I heard ISIS videos, like some ISIS known member or something had a YouTube, and the videos were, so they called it Adpocalypse. That's how they make YouTube lose a lot of money that way, because people couldn't sustain that. Some YouTube creators, big creators, were complaining, small creators were complaining, and that's how the advertisers get what they want. They say, hey, we're just going to withdraw our money until you guys get this fixed. I remember a couple years ago, they had a Hollywood strike with sitcoms and popular, like a lot of the writers. It was like a writer's strike, and they weren't writing new episodes and writing scripts and treatments and stuff like that. And those shows probably suffered because they'd have to get lesser writers, and instead of the seasoned writers who have been working on the show, now you have to get a new brain and a new person to write episodes of the show, and it probably wasn't as funny and stuff like that, as opposed to the originators, the people who were writing the scripts for the shows, and then they had to get it figured out. You guys, if you guys could Google it, but some of you guys will know what I'm talking about with that Hollywood writer strike. But that's what you have to do. Hit them where it hurts. If these judges keep providing that bullshit, 117 or 111 and Canelo Lada or Pacquiao Horn or whatever, then hit them where it hurts in their pocketbook. Make it some kind of way where if your scorecard is highly in question by the mass public, then you don't get. And I guarantee you that'll force people to be a little bit more realistic, because they're being held accountable, or at least their pockets financially are being held accountable. Now, you know, if you turn in some bullshit, you're not really getting paid. And there's nobody that wants to be working for free or doing a job where they're not making money from it, or as much as they should be making. You know what I mean? That's why you see situations, someone gets in trouble at work, they say, oh, you're suspended with no pay, like a cop. If they're investigating him or something, you're suspended with no pay. Hit him where it hurts. So that's one way. Another way is just accountability. It's all accountability stuff. Put them on like at the post-fight press conference, call the judges to the podium and make them in front of the media and the fans, if the fans can get back there or whatever, make them explain why they had 117. Read off their scorecard. Put them on the hot seat like a trial. You know what I'm saying? Make them take the stand. But ultimately, I could throw out all these suggestions or possible suggestions and ways, but boxing's been this way, and they don't want to fix it. So, I mean, it's kind of worthless, because I could think of a whole bunch of things they can do, but they don't do them. They don't do these things to correct it. So those are just a couple ideas that I've thought of in the past, but ultimately it won't change if people settle for it. And then that's another thing fans can do, is hit these promoters where it hurt. Don't watch Pacquiao Horn versus 2. You know what I mean? Part 2. If you really want to take a stand, if you think it was some bullshit in a robbery, then don't watch the rematch. You know what I mean? Or don't support other Top Rank events or HBO or Showtime or whoever's doing it. You know what I mean? Hit them where it hurts. It all goes back to the almighty dollar. And the final question, Rafael Maciel. Ego, I think Andre Ward and Mayweather Jr. are two of the best boxers at adapting to styles and situations that most other fighters have problems dealing with. I enjoy watching boxers with that kind of ability and skill. So my question is, do you know any young boxers coming up that you see similar qualities in, preferably someone not many people have heard of? That's a hard question, because if it's someone that not many people have heard of, then that usually means they don't have the resume to support it. So I could throw out some names of just people I'm watching for and stuff like that, because ultimately we don't know until, like, Errol Spence stepped up with Kell Brook. Okay, now we know he could take a punch. We know some things. Joshua fought Klitschko. Now we know some things. So there's a lot of people that show promise, but usually their resume is not going to back it up. So you ultimately don't know until they take that plunge upward and step up in class. That's just how the game goes. But some people that I'm checking for in terms of skill and who look like they have a ceiling: Shakur Stevenson, fresh out of the Olympics, he's looking good. I think Devin Haney is another person where I see the skill. He doesn't have the resume to back it up at the moment, but they're keeping him active. That's what I like. He's confident. I remember he said that he could beat Broner and just different things like that. So ultimately, there's guys like that. Caleb Plant, I think he's hungry. He's working. So there's a lot of guys like that that I'm checking for. A lot of people. Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yard. There's a lot of different people. That Daniel Gonzalez that Floyd signed. Another one that Floyd signed is Richardson Hitchens. So there's a lot of up-and-coming guys. Gervonta Tank Davis is another fighter that I'm really looking forward to. Even that guy Pacquiao, I forgot his name, but the guy that fought on the PACQUIAOHORN co-main event, he's from the Philippines. Jerwin, I liked him. I'd never seen him before, but I liked it. He stopped him with his opponent with the body shot. His opponent looked tall, looked game, good size frame. But there's a lot of guys like that. So I'm checking for the Jerwin dude now. So if you guys know any other people I should be checking for, let me know that. But there's a ton of up-and-comers, and ultimately we're not going to know what their ceiling is until they prove it. Because there's other things you got to keep in mind when it comes to this boxing game. There's other things that could distract you outside of the ring. So certain fighters I've seen with all the skills in the world, they didn't keep it together outside of the ring and got in trouble or did drugs or whatever, you know what I mean? So I can't really predict the future, but those are people that I'm honestly checking for, and a lot of them I have been watching for a while. Let me know what you guys think. Monday Mail Day, try to get to a lot of questions. I will be back next week. I'm not sure if we have a fight next week. I'm not even sure what day it is. I'm just off. But drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.